From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Mixed Up Sports on mixedupsports.com, powered by twitch.tv here on this Monday. It is the 29th day of February 2016. Crucial Ryan to my left, Nick Sexton to my right. Boys, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good.
And we'll begin today with the NHL trade deadline, which just came and passed about 2.5, 3 hours ago. A lot of trades, a lot of big names, names that you didn't think were going to be moved, that were moved. A lot of names like Drouin, Parenteau, Grabner, names that you thought were going to move ended up staying put. A ton of trades today, but most of them focused around two teams, mainly the Chicago Blackhawks and the Carolina Hurricanes, who essentially went on a fire sale these last 48 hours.
We talked about it previously, last show, that we know that the Blackhawks were obviously going to go forth and make bunches of trades, and they didn't, disappoint us. They essentially want to make their team as best as they possibly can, with playoffs coming soon and wanting to make that run for the title. Like you had said, there were so many trades, and it's going to be obvious with the trade deadline up. We always have to expect the unexpected, because that's essentially what this is. You never know what's going to happen until that alert goes off saying, hey, your guy got traded, your guy's staying, or whatever. It's all up into the air until the final deadline, in which case it was. Personally, for me, some of the trades that were made were kind of pointless and weren't the best trades, but if it makes the teams better, like for me, if Bruins get better from here on out, well, I can't complain.
I mean, the trade deadline in any sport is always an exciting time, because you got, players going in and out seems every second. And to go back to your point about the Carolina Hurricanes almost having like a fire sale you mentioned, they've made about 4 trades within 48 hours, which is, that's just ridiculous to make that many trades, which, will it make their team better? That's to see throughout the rest of the season, and obviously the hope is that makes them a team that can qualify for the playoffs. But the Blackhawks made some trades, and hopefully it'll lead to a good ending to the NHL season.
This is the trade that really kicked it off, though, was the Hurricanes trading Eric Staal to the New York Rangers for Alexei Sorella, a 2016 second round and a 2017 second round. From a Rangers point of view, you got Marty St. Louis a couple years ago, Keith Yandel last year, Rick Nash a couple years ago, and now you get Eric Staal. This is the 4th guy in about 3 years that the Rangers have gotten at the trade deadline that are well beyond their prime, that they've overspent for, and are elders in the league. While a lot of these teams are trying to get younger, like again, that was mainly what Carolina was trying to do. They were trying to get younger. They traded Eric Staal. They traded Chris Versteeg for younger players. They traded Dennis Robertson. While teams are trying to get younger, the New York Rangers just continue to get older.
Well, is this their way? I don't know the situation in New York, but is this their way to possibly bring in the older guys to teach the younger guys how to play better? I mean, I don't. Like I said, I'm not.
Half the team is older guys.
I mean, that's partner up, buddy system. Make your younger player better. I mean, if that's...
what they have essentially done is what I'm actually used to. They made a trade for a guy that, great, yes, I'd love to have this guy. 5 years ago, when he was actually at the top of his game, now you're just overspending for players that you wish you had had before.
I think that with the Rangers making all these trades for older guys, it's them making a push for the playoffs. Granted, it's probably going to come back to bite them in a couple of years when all their trades are retiring. But I mean, they're they're going with the win now philosophy instead of a rebuilding or something like that, or just kind of staying at the middle of the pack and hoping to get better. They're just trying to get as many veterans that are established while unloading some young guys that might not be established, might have a future, but at this point they're not the young guys can't contribute as much as the veterans can. So if they make the playoffs and they have a good run, then it worked out fine. If they don't, then you might run into some issues with next year and the years to come for the New York Rangers here.
And speaking of your Boston Bruins there, Kershaw, they picked up Lee Stempniak here at the deadline from the New Jersey Devils, who, I'm sure you'll like this, through 63 games played, 16 goals, 25 assists, he will fit very, very nicely in either a second line or a third line role for the Bruins as they attempt to make their playoff push.
I was before we went into any of the trades. I specifically talked about defense because we've been giving up a lot of goals lately, and you want to win games by conceding the least. And if we end up picking up a forward, maybe we're just trying to go win the shootouts. I guess it's essentially score more. But I want to bring up something with all these trades that are involving round picks like in 2016, 2017, and so on and so forth. Does this speak volumes for the upcoming draft class that there's so much value in these like late round picks in 2016 and 2017?
There are guys that you could definitely pick up a stud late in the draft. If I remember, I don't think I'd have to look. I'd have to take a second here to look. I don't think Sidney Crosby was drafted all that high, if I remember correctly. Sorry, trying to look through here. I'll get back to you guys on that one, but it's not like say the NBA where you can't really find a stud in the later rounds. You can find a very solid player in the middle to late rounds in the NHL.
Well, because I'm going to go back to the trade that Boston made with the New Jersey for Stempniak. Essentially, we gave up two picks in the upcoming years for this player. So, that's why I'm wondering how much value do you put into a pick. But obviously, if you look at all the picks that have come up to this deadline point, there's been several, and good 80 to 90% of them have involved some kind of later pick in the upcoming years.
There's a lot you need picks as far as that's concerned. Never mind. Crosby was actually drafted pretty high. As a matter of fact, I don't think you can get much higher than first overall. So I could have swore there was some big name player that wasn't drafted all that high that's made it big in the NHL, and Crosby wasn't the one.
Well, essentially, but in other trades too, you had Buffalo Sabres trading Jamie McGinn to Anaheim for a 2016 third-round pick. Essentially, picks are going out the window constantly for all these different players. So it's, like I said, it's going to be interesting for upcoming years. But essentially, are these how much value do you put into these trades for big pushes for playoffs? I mean, they're up. Obviously, playoffs are coming very soon for NHL.
For the Anaheim Ducks, they made trades that definitely help their playoff push. They're sitting third place in the Pacific Division right now. They're this third place in the Pacific Division after their absolutely horrendous start. They were the worst team in the Western Conference for quite a while, and now they've come into their own. Actually, second place now, just 2 points behind the LA Kings for first place in the West. Fourth place for first place in the Pacific. Fourth place in the West. So the Ducks have really turned it around just based on the way they've played alone. These trades will only do more to help, and I'm very glad that you mentioned, getting in, getting into a playoff run, because that is something that my Islanders are currently pressed with the task of trying to complete here. They are sitting tied with the Detroit Red Wings for a playoff spot. I'm sorry, 3 points ahead of Pittsburgh for a playoff spot. Just blew a 1-0 lead in the third period last night against Edmonton, lost 3-0, and they'll play Vancouver, who is right now very solidly not in a playoff spot. The New York Islanders needed to make moves. Travis Hamonic had requested to get traded at the beginning of the season. He did not go. There were other players that the Islanders very well could have traded for that they didn't. Instead, what do? They go out and they get two young players. Fine, I have nothing wrong with young players, but when you get young players that cannot help right now, that cannot break into that forward 12. They got two forwards, Marc-Andre Clichet from the Colorado Avalanche, and I believe they got, what was his name? They just had it on the side here. Shane Prince and a draft pick from the Ottawa Senators. These are two kids, while young and growing, and you got a draft pick out of Ottawa for this year in the third round. 3 goals, 12 points in 42 games for Prince. That is not going to break into the New York Islanders' top 12. That is not going to help them get into the playoffs. The Islanders needed to make a big move. Hamonic for Trouba. Send Hamonic to Edmonton for maybe Jordan Eberle or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. They needed to make a big move for a big impact player, which is what, I don't know, maybe the Rangers were able to do. Someone in their division. Other teams in the conference, the Devils getting rid of some players but getting some solid pieces back. They needed a big name player to help their push into the playoffs. If it was a half a year loan, that's fine. You'll accept that. At least for right now, you'll accept it. But when you're only 3 points clear of a playoff spot, that is in no way safe. Yaroslav Halak has not played nearly as well as he had last year. Thomas Greiss has played absolutely fantastic in his replacement, which is something the Islanders haven't had, a backup goaltender. But for the Islanders to not go out and get somebody to help them with this playoff push, the Islanders definitely failed today. And I am very, very disappointed in my team.
Well, essentially, I want to talk about, you just talked about your team and how they, needed to make some moves. For at least my team, I want to talk about not essentially the moves that they made, but going forward from here. I'm looking at right now their record on NHL.com, and they've won 34 and lost only 23 games. However, their away record is 10 times better than their home record. Come on, Boston. Win some at home. I want them to make a push, and they have to do it at home. You win games at home. Bring it for your fans. And the fact that they're not doing it, I'm glad they're going away to other people's places and arenas and taking these wins away from them. But bring some home for your fans. You want your team to make a push. You want them to be better. But if they can't do it at home, how big of a push can they go in the playoffs? But for right now, they got to step it up. Win some at home. Keep doing what they're doing away because they're playing phenomenal away. But overall, all right. They're plus 20 in the goal differential, but still, they're not doing it too well at home.
Yeah, I mean this NHL season, obviously we just got past the trade deadline, and we're coming to the playoffs here, and a lot of these trades they're gonna help some teams out that are making some playoff pushes. They're gonna help some teams that are looking to kind of rebuild. Like you mentioned, teams are trading for late round selections instead of early round selections. Maybe that just might be because of the trend of trading for veterans, that they think we'll get these players, maybe some steals, maybe some just solid players that can help and kind of outlast the veterans, if that makes sense. That they don't need that great of talent if the opponents, all their great players are retired. But other than that, it should be an exciting finish to this NHL season, and should be exciting to watch who comes away with the Stanley Cup.
Definitely should. We have about a month and a half left until we get to the end of the season, but right now we will take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.